than simply all coming from one and the same group, all obeying the command and will of the President because they're all coterminous with the President and serve at his pleasure. Why exemption from the procurement law, including purchase of the supplies nyo, exempted sa procurement law? Malito. Hindi tama to.
There's no distinction, sir.
You sure, ma'am? Exempt from local and national taxes, the National Internal Revenue Code, local government. Exempted lahat? What kind of exemption do you enjoy from national and local taxes? Supplies, equipment, papers, documents, biglang tax exempt, exempt sa duties, exempt lahat? Ma'am, magulo yun ha? May a gaping loophole insofar as entities selling
Kung bago ka pa lang dito sa YouTube channel ko, please like the video and subscribe at i-click ang notification bell para mas magiging updated ka sa susunod na mga video. Mga tauhan ni Pbbm nakatikim na pasuntok na salita ng mga senador patungkol sa Maharlika Investment Fund dahil nakitaan ng mga senador na merong mali ang nasabing batas.
Ika nga, kung may bloodbath sa stocks, now is the time to buy. Why not? Now is a good time to invest. But my question, ma'am, is when will we reap the benefits? Usually, if stocks are low, then it takes about, in a recession, global recession, it will take about 2 to 3 years to recover. So, kikita tayo in 2 to 3 years kung mag-i-invest tayo sa stocks. Now, when you talk of bonds, when you talk of debt instruments, again, if we discuss it later on, DBP and Land Bank would want their respective ROI. I think it's DBP that owns the ERPs to MRT, right? Both? And you're earning how much? 18?
12% this time.
Overall. So, if it's at 12%, and I presume, magkano yung portfolio nyo? Magkano ang ROI nyo sa portfolio nyo for the past year? Ballpark.
Our investment portfolio, Senator Escudero, is 1.3 trillion. And our average return on that investment in 2022 was 3.73%.
3.76. And on the part of, ang liit naman, 3.76?
Sir, 73.
Ilan? 3.76. On the part of DBP?
Your Honor, on the part of DBP, it's close to 7%.
7%?
Return on equity, sir.
Yes. My question, ma'am, is if you ask now DBP, at the very least, that will be their basis. So isn't that like borrowing from them to the tune of the guaranteed supposed rate of return on their investment in other investments? So whether it's at 3.7 or 7%, so as not to be unfair to them, di ba? We should guarantee at the very least roughly those amounts. Kahit habaan pa natin yung period for the last 5 years, last 3 years, and let's average it off. At the very least, can that be placed in the bill? To be fair to them.
Yeah. Actually, sir, if they invest it in the GS right now at 5 years tenor, it's about almost 6%. So, yun pa lang
Even
po.
higher.
Panalo na sila.
Ngayon, sa PAGCOR, wala naman silang ini-investan, di ba? Puro out yun eh. Yun, pwede kang maglaro siguro ng ROI nila. But insofar as Land Bank and DBP is concerned, we have to give them a respectable rate of return guaranteed based on the... Pwede nga, sabi mo nga, pwede sa GS, 6% at the very least. Would that be fair?
Yes. Yes po, dahil GS lang very conservative.
Yes, exactly. Next question, ma'am. Mr. Chair, I'll just have 3 points. We will have several hearings anyway. Next question, ma'am. I discussed this earlier. Paano yung composition ng board? Bakit isa lang ang representative ng Land Bank kung target natin is 100 billion? Ano ba yung capitalization na tinitingnan nyo ng Maharlika Investment Fund? How much is the capitalization?
Sir, for the seed, so meron pong 75 billion from DBP and Land Bank. Tapos po, right now, if you will just base it on dun sa BSP, yung first 2 years nila, and base if it's the dividend last year of about 17 billion. Tapos po, meron pong PAGCOR na yung, again, if you base it on the dividend, so more or less mga 100 billion po. 100 billion pesos.
Ma'am, I agree with the more or less 100, but we are organizing this corporation by virtue of a law, not under the corporation code. Right, ma'am?
Tama po.
Hindi ba dapat may capitalization yung batas? This does not have any. It simply talks of the contribution of Land Bank, of DBP, 10% ng PAGCOR, baka may mag-invest ng private sector. I mean, that it's a law, it's not an excuse not to have a capitalization, authorized capitalization requirement. The bill does not, both versions, both the House and the Senate. So what would be para kung mag-i-increase tayo ng capitalization, di ba? Hindi yung decision lang ng board, hindi naman IRR lang. Like with any other corporation, they should go through the process since this is mandated by law, i-amend yung batas just like the BSP charter. Di ba? Nung nag-increase tayo ng capitalization ninyo, we had to amend the law. The same is true here. Kindly provide for a specific authorized capital of the MIF. And going to the composition, kung 100 billion yung lalagay nyo, ma'am, Land Bank 50 billion, again, Attorney Mortel, I think, will agree with me that if the capital contribution of Land Bank is 50%, prudence and practice to protect their investment would dictate that 50% of the members of the board should come. Gano'n naman yung korporasyon, di ba? 50% ng kapital galing sa akin, at 50% ng board akin.
Section 9.
25% ng kapital galing sa DBP, 25% galing sa kanila. Where did this formula come from? Now, if you want proper corporate governance, hindi ba tama lang na Land Bank should have the proportional representation in the board to their investment so that they can protect their investment? Same is true for DBP, same is true for PAGCOR, same is true for private individuals. In fact, you allocated already representation for future private investors na wala pa naman silang binibigay na pera. Why will they have one vote similar to Land Bank who contributed 50 billion? Isn't that, to say the least, unfair? Isn't that going against basic corporate governance and practice? Ma'am, please.
Sir, sa Section 19 po, nakalagay, so we have yung 15-member board, yung Secretary of Finance, tapos po yung CEO na MIC, yung president, tapos yung Land Bank and DBP, and there would be 6 regular members representing the contributors to the fund, which are really Land Bank and DBP, in accordance with the proportion of their corresponding investments. So baka...
Ma'am, sa 6 lang nag-a-apply yung proportional contribution nila, hindi sa 15? Ganun ba yan? Unang beses ko yata makarinig ng korporasyon na ganyan. Na meron kang cap kung ano, saan mag-a-apply lang investment. Now, let's take your word for it. For example, kung 50% ang Land Bank, 25% ang DBP, to understand saan ang galing yung hindi natin sinunod sa isang korporasyon, yung capital contribution ng investors. And since we do not know yet how much the 10% of PAGCOR will be, bibigyan mo pa sila ng share dun sa 6. And then the private sector are given 5. You don't even know. I mean, sige, may independent director, but may academe. Nagbigay ba si academe? Si private sector na pipiliin nyo, kung sino man negosyante siya, nagbigay ba siya? Did he invest? There must be some rhyme and reason behind it, why we're choosing the people to sit there. The Secretary of Finance sits as the chairperson. May contribution ba ang national government? Or counted na yung contribution ng Land Bank that he chairs as, I mean, no, I don't know nga. Is that how you look at it? I don't know.
Percent owned po ng DBP, ng national government, ang DBP at ang Land Bank.
So, ika-count ko siya. So, you have 8 out of 15. coming from Land Bank, DBP, kung binibilang ko Secretary of Finance, it's still not 75%. Now, my question is, shouldn't it reflect the capital contribution? Mr. Mortel, sir?
Good morning, Your Honors. I will venture to provide my insights on this. I think the issue is cropping up because of the treatment of the kind of entity created. Here, it would appear, because it is an MIC, it would appear that it is a corporation. And that having so, the question of Senator Escudero perhaps is on the reflection if it is treated as a stock corporation. But if the entity is treated as a government entities with corporate body, then their submission could perhaps be accommodated. But not if the creation is entirely on the treatment of the same being a corporation. That's my submission, Your Honor.
My presumption, sir, is that's why we're exempting them in the salary standardization law, the GCG law. We're exempting them from everything. Payment of taxes, procurement law. The intention is for this company to operate as a private entity. That the principles of business would apply to this corporation and should therefore reflect to the corresponding interest and stakeholding of the contributors to the fund. Otherwise, it will be just like BSP. Created by law, kami nagpangalan ng lahat, national government nagko-contribute, okay lang. So, may I ask, Ma'am Lea, so is Attorney Mortel correct? Ang tingin nyo rito, hindi ordinaryong korporasyon, we will not treat it as a corporation, and yet you said in the proposed bill, you will treat this as an ordinary corporation wherein the rules of corporate governance would apply. Ma'am?
Given that the contributions are coming also from the state-owned enterprises, and eventually there will also be contributions from the national government, as we have cited from the proceeds of privatization, from some of the proceeds of the fiscal regime of the mining sector. So eventually, tama po, magiging GOCC po siya. But we are asking for the exemptions from the GCG, from the salary standardization, from the Government Procurement Act. So it will be running on a commercial basis.
So hybrid siya, ma'am? Ma'am, forgive me, ma'am.
Ganon din po kasi yung formulation sa corporations like Temasek, even like sa Indonesia. So ganon din po yung structure niya.
Yes, ma'am. But there are distinctions between Temasek and INA in relation to what we are proposing here. So just to clarify, so you're seeking to create a hybrid corporation that has all the benefits of a government entity, exemptions sa salary standardization, exemptions sa procurement law, exemptions sa payment of taxes, both national and local, which will wreak havoc, by the way, because when they invest in stocks and buy and sell stocks, ang hirap i-track nun, ha? But anyway, we will go there at another time. But, and when you buy and sell properties too, government bonds, etc., etc. But anyway, my point is, getting all of those benefits and yet not being treated as a business entity that can function as if it were a private venture.
Mr. Chair, with the indulgence of Senator Escudero.
If it's okay with Senator, yes, please proceed.
Yes.
Salamat, Mr. Chair. Salamat, Sen. Escudero. Quick interjection lang po. Nabanggit na naman yung INA. In the case of INA, ang board po nila 5 individual lamang. Tapos ang advisory board nila 5. And lastly po, in the sa questioning ni Sen. Escudero, sinabi po ni Attorney Mortel ng GCG, baka ituturing ito or itinuturing itong Maharlika na government entity with a corporate body. So just for the record, Mr. Chair, and with all due respect to the Chair, kaya nga po in plenary, although nag-rule na dito ang ating ang plenary, kaya po ni-raise ni Minority Leader yung matter of the referral of the bill. Kaya po pinost niya at that point in time na baka sa Government Corporations Committee. Kasi po kung hindi malinaw din, Mr. Chair, ang executive, kung kung anong animal itong Maharlika, nakakalito pati sa atin dito sa Senado. So just for the record, Mr. Chair, and then again with all due respect. Salamat po, Mr. Chair. Salamat, Sen. Escudero.
Thank you. Please proceed, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Give me a couple of minutes, Mr. Chairman. Now, let's talk about the exemption sa GCG. May I ask why? Essentially, the GCG reviews whoever you will appoint in the board.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now you created an advisory body to make the corresponding recommendations sans the GCG. May I ask why? How will the operation of MIF be hindered if the appointments to the board go through GCG? The usual course, if it is indeed a GOCC. Anong problema ba ng GCG na ayaw niyong padaanin sa kanila? What will be hindered if it goes through GCG? I understand, DBP, dumadaan sa GCG, di ba? Land Bank, same. So, ano yung hindi nyo magagawa o makukuha kung dumaan sa GCG kaya ayaw nyo? What's the logic behind it, ma'am?
Siguro po, given yung experience ng mga government corporations namin in terms of yung pagpapadaan sa GCG, dahil sa dami rin po ng ine-evaluate nila, yung due diligence po nila, so medyo nagkakaroon lang po ng time-consuming. But if it would just be through the advisory body, na ang composition naman po ang ating Department of Budget and Management Secretary, ang NEDA Secretary, so there also would be in a best position to be able to have a determination of who should sit dun po sa board.
Ma'am, if it's only time that you're concerned about, I would presume that the GCG is really busy at the beginning of any administration. It's been 6 months. Halos na fill up na halos lahat ng government corporations. Kung may backlog man sila, tapos na yon. So it's only time. So we include as part of the bill. I-prioritize nila to. I mean, if it's only the delay that you're afraid, I'm telling you already, the bill will be delayed because there are so many gaps and loopholes in the bill. So the GCG will have time. You can already start processing some of the names as soon as it is approved. What else, ma'am? Because I wonder why you don't want the GCG to go through the nominees. I presume all of these will be via a letter of intent signed by the President. It will go through the advisory board. The advisory board cannot just take up applications from whoever, di ba? As it is with the GCG. May letter of intent, ang Secretary of Finance, ang Presidente, depende sa korporasyon, which the GCG will process, and if they approve it, then the appointment or the designation will be affected. So why else, ma'am? Aside from the time constraint, bakit nyo ayaw dumaan sa GCG? Anong ayaw nyo sa GCG kung bakit nyo ayaw padaanin? Aside from the time.
Hindi lang, if I may, Your Honor, hindi lang po kasi naman in terms of the nominations to the board ang ginagawa ng GCG. Marami rin po silang ginagawa, evaluating po yung performance scorecard and the like, no? So, maraming preoccupation na might also delay in terms of the nominations to the board for the Maharlika Fund. And we see naman po with this, the advisory committee, na they would be in a best position to be able to know who should really the best minds to be able to make the MIC function very well. So yun po yung rationale behind bakit hindi na lang po dadaan sa GCG.
The main reason why GCG has a permanent term is to guarantee independence. All of the people you're mentioning, DBM, DOF, and EDA, are all coterminous with the President and serve at his pleasure. They're all coming from one side. In fact, the main reason why GCG is there is to provide a different and separate perspective. Dahil wala naman sigurong isang tao nagmamayari ng lahat ng talino, galing at magandang intensyon para sa bansa, di ba? Maganda rin mapakinggan yung iba. And the same is true here. If you really want this MIF to succeed, the more heads that are participating in crafting policies and being a part of it, I think it would be better and best than simply all coming from one and the same group, all obeying the command and will of the President because they're all coterminous with the President and serve at his pleasure, unlike the GCG. Moving to the next point, ma'am. Why exemption from the procurement law? Including purchase of, ano bang papers yung sinasabi niyo exemption? Pati supplies niyo, exempted sa procurement law? Papel, stapler, ribbon, computer.
I think ang sinasabi po sa procurement law are technical services. Yung pong pag-e-evaluate, like if they're going to get po yung fund managers, so that would be exempted from the Government Procurement Act.
It did not specify here. It simply gave a blanket exemption sa procurement law. Again, I'm talking about purchase of supplies, not only fund managers. I'm talking about purchase of vehicles. I'm talking about rental or purchase of a building or rental of a building or office space. I'm talking of almost everything and anything. Would you change it later on, ma'am, to specify?
Siguro po, there would have to be some clarity. Pero po sa Section 32, nakalagay po doon yung engagement of professional or technical services needed in the selection of investments as authorized in this Act, such as fund management, investment, etc. po.
I agree, ma'am. Pero hindi nga in-specify kung anong kasama. Exempted lang. So yun lang ba ang intention nyo? So we will specify that.
I
Ngayon lang.
understand po, maybe from the Government Procurement Act. GPB.
Yes, ma'am. GPPB?
Yes, sir. Good morning po, Mr. Chair, as well as the honorable members of this committee. I'm Maria Ginesha Guillermo.
Ma'am, sit there, ma'am.
Thank you.
Para hindi kayo naka...
Sorry. Kawawa naman. Hindi naman niya pumili ng trabaho.
Yes, ma'am. So what's the intention here? Saan lang exempted ang MIF?
Thank you very much, sir, for that question. Actually, it is not, the RA 9184 is still applicable as a general rule for any procurement activity of the MIC. We only have provided an exemption, particularly in the engagement of technical and research services. The reason why is because we wanted them to just give them the opportunity to really be able to forge their agreement, contractual arrangement with the service provider. But however, we have made a specific requirement wherein it should be that the board should come up with the approved guidelines in the selection process for this fund or research technical services, sir.
Ma'am, under pa rin ng COA to, di ba?
Yes po.
So ano magiging basis ng COA to say, mali to, hindi tama to?
Of course, sir, we would look into it as part of the requirement pa rin po when they would specify po yung specific na criteria when they would be engaging with the research or the technical services provider po.
Ma'am, in this changing world, there are already consultants that subscription na lang naman yun eh. Subscribe ka sa mga, di ba, sa report ng kung sino, Bloomberg, kung sino man, di ba? Okay lang naman yun eh. Hindi naman issue yun eh, di ba?
Yes, sir.
Now, other procurement activities of the MIF, subject to the procurement law?
Yes, sir.
So when they buy a piece of property,
Then it is still procurement law, sir. As long as we have qualified there, sir, that it is only exempted insofar as the engagement of technical or research service providers po.
I presume pagbili nila ng bonds, ng certificates of indebtedness, securities, wala lahat yon, di ba? Wala naman procurement law yun eh.
There is still a procurement law, sir, because in general we have.
Paano, ma'am? Let's say bumaba isang share of stock, gusto nilang bumili. Bukas, paano procurement law yun?
There's, as far as we are
What's the
concerned-
process, ma'am?
As far as when it comes to all procurement transactions of the MIC, sir, it is still imperative that RA 9184 would be applied.
So what does RA 9184 say with respect to the purchase of shares of stock? Ano yung proseso, ma'am?
Of course, sir, as far as you shares of stock, of course, this is still subject to the corporation code, sir. And then, as far as the procurement side of it, it is not under the purview po ng RA 9184.
O so hindi nga kasama.
Yes, sir.
Hindi siya kasama. Pati pagbili ng government security, both
No.
foreign and local. Hindi kasama.
Hindi po.
Pagbili ng real property, kasama.
Yes, sir.
Do you make a distinction between an investment in a listed company and investment in a company that's not listed?
May we just look into it, as since we are referring to stocks, I think we have to apply the corporation code pa rin po, sir. So it's not necessarily
No,
po.
ma'am. No, ma'am. We're talking about procurement rules, procedures, and laws.
Yes po.
Is there a distinction between MIC, MIF investing or buying shares of stock from a listed company compared to MIC, MIF investing in a company that's not listed?
There's no distinction, sir.
You sure, ma'am?
Sir, this is insofar as the procurement law is concerned, sir.
Ma'am, may kumpanya ko, tinatakot ko sila. Hoy, bili kayo ng share, mag-invest kayo sa kumpanya ko. Ni walang nakakaalam kung ano yung laman ng kumpanya ko. Hindi, unlike a company that's listed in the stock market, well, it goes through several checks.
Yes, sir.
So, walang distinction from the point of view of 9184?
We are particularly looking at, sir, may I just check my notes, sir, is as far as investments are concerned, sir, this is not within the purview po kasi ng RA 9184.
Ma'am, you're with GPPB, di ba?
Yes, sir.
Submit to us, ma'am, the implications
Yes.
na lang
Yes,
under
sir.
9184 of the possible activities that MIC, MIF will be undertaking, assuming it is created into law.
Yes, sir.
Please, ma'am. Last point, Mr. Chairman, for this so that others can be given a chance. Now, Ma'am Lea, I'd like to take up tax exemptions. Exempt from local and national taxes, direct, indirect, National Internal Revenue Code, Local Government Code, all funds, assets, and properties, all revenue, income, investment earnings, as well as accruals thereto, purchase of supplies, equipment, papers, or documents. Exempted lahat? Does Land Bank or DBP enjoy the same? Ma'am, from Land Bank?
No, sir.
What kind of exemption do you enjoy from national and local taxes? Any?
None, Your Honor.
DBP?
None po, Your Honor.
Is this the first of its kind, Ma'am Lea? No, I don't know. Perhaps PAGCOR is, or NAPOCOR used to be to a certain degree, but
the intention na lang, sir. Because the intention is that given that foregone taxes to be paid, it will go back to the fund. So, iikot po yung pondo ng pera, mas mapapalago, mas magagamit. So, I think that was the intention behind.
I agree, ma'am, but you've been the National Treasurer for quite some time. You've seen the policy of previous Secretaries of Finance, regardless of administration. It's easier to have a uniform rule applicable to all than to create exemptions because it will wreak havoc on the system. You yourself said, it will go to government anyway. Diba? Doc stamps, babayaran. Final tax sa sale ng on income, sale ng shares of stock, gobyerno pa rin pupunta. Capital gains tax, documentary stamp tax, transfer tax, gobyerno naman lahat pupunta yan. So, why wreak havoc by exempting this entity? And again, I think this is the first time that, to my knowledge, na merong entity ganito ka lawak yung exemption na binibigay natin, when in fact, it will just simply go from one pocket to another of government. So if you want to preserve the fund, then we can put here and then all taxes paid shall be reverted back to the company by way of additional investment of the national government. But let them pay the taxes in the ordinary course. Di ba, ma'am? Masimple yan. Kindly consider it, ma'am.